this CD, first of all, I call it a part of my bucket list. And ever since I was an undergrad, the first time I ever saw Warren Jones play was when he came to UNCG and played for Denise Graves in the huge auditorium. And I remember everything about that day, even what Denise Graves wore. And it was also the first time that I ever heard anything by the composer Henri Duparc, because she did a set of Duparc songs. And the biggest song that I remember is Le Manoir de Rosemonde. And I still sing that. But that was the first time I ever heard Duparc. And so I've been interested in Henri Duparc ever since. And so I was like, gosh, I want to perform. I want to perform with that pianist. I want to work with that pianist. And so this CD is a bucket list item for me. And there are a bunch of other projects that I'm going to drag Warren into the studio
Yes.
for. Yes, absolutely. You know, but this particular CD came about as I did a lecture last year at Ithaca College, where I'm on faculty. I see some of my students chiming in here on Instagram. Woohoo!
Yeah,
Hey, Ava.
you're in Ithaca right now, right? That's where you're.
I'm in Ithaca right now. I've been teaching all day, and I came home and I taught a lecture last year on the legacy of Black composers in art, song, and opera.
Yeah.
And I started doing a little research here and there were things I knew. There was a lot that I didn't know. And I was like, damn, this is some like really cool stuff. And wow, I didn't know this or I didn't know that. And so I got to snooping around, you know, and looking at music. And my manager is on here and she knows that I can be relentless when it comes to finding new repertoire. And things started standing out to me, in particular, a composer by the name of Dorothy Rudd Moore.
Yeah, I've never heard of her before.
And I'm so glad that I was able to do this CD. And I've been singing a lot of her repertoire. Actually, I've been doing auditions with the Frederick Douglass aria. And just to make sure that I get a chance to sing it, I open with it. And
Amazing.
And I stand by that. Whether people choose me to do, oh, there goes one of my locticians, Hanuna, Miss Hanuna. Yes, they all up in here. She did my hair today. Look, I'm showing her hairdo all in the camera.
Amazing.
I make it a point to do that, you know, whether they hire me or not, at least they got to hear Dorothy Rudd Moore. And she's got a bunch of songs, a lot of song cycles. A lot of her repertoire is extremely hard and complex, but it's absolutely amazing. And I kind of am on this thing where I'm showing off Dorothy Rudd Moore's works. You know, I had a student, Taylor Burgess, who will probably pop in a few minutes. She sang a huge cycle of hers on her recital last year at Queens College. And I'm just really into a lot of Dorothy Rudd Moore's works these days. And so I was happy to put that on this CD.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it came from from a lecture. The idea of this recital came from a lecture, and really the idea of telling Black stories and promoting Black composers, men and women, and Black poets. And I'm glad it turned out the way it did. And Genius Child, with one of my favorite composers, Ricky Ian Gordon.
Yes.
Ricky's invited to the cookout. He's invited to the cookout. So I put Ricky on there. This cycle is amazing. It fits my voice like a glove. And the story that it tells about humanity and I'm glad you like that lecture, Madison. And the story that Genius Child tells of humanity, it just fit for this particular program. And Ricky's an amazing composer, and his works just fit my voice very well. So I was so happy to put that on there and to be able to perform this cycle.
Yeah. I've been listening to, in particular, my favorite that I've been listening to all day long is actually one of the traditional spirituals, City Called Heaven.
Yes,
And-
I've gotten a lot of emails and text messages about about the spirituals.
Yeah, so the spirituals, I know they were an encore, but they were a planned encore, obviously, because they are studied, and you clearly and chose them in particular. A reason, or can you talk a little bit about the end of the album? You know, got curated using pieces on there, and then ending with just really traditional spiritual.
Yeah,
really is very powerful. I feel like when I listened to the whole thing.
Yeah. Absolutely. You know, what's interesting is they weren't planned because I never know how I'm going to feel. And so on the program,
you're way braver on stage than I ever was.
Yeah. Spirituals to be announced from the stage. And that's an idea that I stole from the great Kathleen Battle, who is just like, okay, I'll announce the spirituals from the stage because I don't know what I'm going to sing. And I think Warren has played for me since 2005. Our first recital we ever did was at the Libero Theater in Santa Barbara.
Okay. Wow. Mm.
And on that concert, we did the 5 songs of Lawrence Hope.
Okay.
Yep.
Great.
In 2005. And so it was, nobody knows my voice better other than my mom, you know, because it was a part of her, you know. But nobody knows my voice better. And so usually I'll say, hey, I'm thinking about doing these. I'm thinking about doing those. But the reason I put them on there is because I believe that the church is the epicenter for Black culture.
Okay.
I believe that's just what I believe. I believe that the epicenter of Black culture is rooted in the church. Sure. And I grew up in church. Even when I go home now, we spend all day in church, you know. But I make it a point to put that on there. I make it a point to sing those pieces or any of the pieces that I learned in church because that's me without all of the bells and whistles and all the fancy educations. And there's my cousin Keita right there. She know what I'm talking about. We was in church. There's my cousin right there. I see her. We was in church every day of the week. And so strip all the education and stuff off of there, and you just have me, what my family knows, who my family knows, you know, and anyone from my family probably could have joined in with me during that moment, and it would have just blended just fine. So I make it a point to put those on there because I believe that's where a lot of the repertoire that I perform came from. I believe that's where it derived from. And so I put that on there. It's a part of telling Black stories.
For sure. And you can tell when you listen to the entire album, you can really feel, I mean, I know I can about City Called Heaven, you really feel not that there's like a change or difference in the way that you're performing it or singing it, and that you would perform it with a different amount of preparation or musical accuracy or anything, but there's a heaviness to it, or I should say, an intention to it that you can tell it's like very grounded and really meaningful. And I'm just so, because when we originally talked about the CD, we had the set list, and then we were like, do we put on spirituals? Do we not? And I hadn't heard them. And we thought, well, I don't know. We have to ask Sidney. Maybe he wants them on there. It's like 21 songs.
Listen, this album is like a Janet Jackson album. When Janet Jackson does a CD, she's got like 30 songs on there, and you better enjoy it because she's not gonna have another CD for another like 4 or 5 years. So you better dance your heart out. You better go to that tour. This CD is definitely like Janet Jackson Rhythm Nation 1814 with like 25 songs on there and like 47 interludes. It's very 90s. I'm a 90s kid.
Hey, technically I am too. I was born in 89. So though I wasn't really making a whole lot of conscious thoughts and memories for the first, 5 years of the 90s, I get you.
We're 80s babies, but we grew up in the 90s.
Absolutely. Exactly. I love that. Well, I hope it's not like 4 or 5 years before you do another one with Warren, because now you promised. It's gonna happen.
Absolutely. I got some very interesting ideas and some things that we're definitely going to be having some discussions about. Working with some new composers. Hopefully gonna get to start working with Dr. Brittany Boykin. Very excited about that. She's just a wonderful composer, a good friend of mine, and we're chit-chatting and brainstorming, got our think tank going on. So we got some ideas. I got some ideas and gonna hoax Warren into, coming around to the studio.
So when it comes to, when you originally chose all of these pieces and you were doing this recital and stuff at Brevard in their new center that they had just built, this was the first performance in that space, correct?
I think it wasn't the first. They had done performances the night before this recital. I actually performed with Laura Downs, and that was a lot of fun too. So there were other people that had performed in it, but if somebody's on here from Brevard, maybe they'll chime in. This might have been one of the first big recitals for their recital series in there.
So choosing all the pieces and then having this live performance of it, and then the idea to take all of it and put it onto an album so that you could share it with all kinds of people and relive that over and over and over again. I mean, can you talk a little bit about what it means for you? I mean, is this your first album to be able to put out an album? It is.
Yes, this is my first.
Oh my God. Okay. So, it looks like we lost you on Instagram, but that is okay. We will turn you.
Send me the link. Instagram be acting crazy.
Oh yeah. Okay, wait. Hold on, everybody. Technical difficulties. Let's find Sidney here. Okay, I invited.
There we go. Boom.
Okay, there you go. Okay. So this being your first album ever, so can you just talk about what it means for an artist in general, and also for you for this recital in particular, to be able to put this on an album, and how it can really affect your relationship with this recital series, and how you're able to use this and every time you perform, it's like a one-time live event, but now it's like
what's interesting is growing up when I was younger, I always talked to my students about when I was your age in undergrad, we had all these recordings, and that's how I became familiar with Fischer Dieskau and the great and powerful Lament Price, and Teresa Berganza and all of these wonderful singers, because they had these things archived. And every now and then you find a really good recording for you to reference. And so it's something I always wanted to do, was to start recording so that folks like my students and other students will have some sort of a reference to listen to. A good reference, a clear reference for them whenever they're looking at repertoire. Oh, wonder how this piece goes. Like I did when I was growing up. And that actually happened yesterday. I got an email on my school email from a pianist and a singer in France who they were listening to the recording that I did of Louis Duray, some music with Dr. Jocelyn Dewitt. And we recorded that a long time ago. But they were like, hey, we heard this recording. We love it. We're thinking about doing these pieces for Wigmore Hall, and that made me feel good, because I thought, gosh, somebody's using this recording to learn more about Louise Duray. And I sent it to Jocelyn, and I was just so excited that random people sent me a text message about some work that she and I did. And that's one of the most exciting things about this recording is maybe when someone types in Dorothy Rudd Moore's name, that recording will pop up and that'll be what they hear. Something else that sticks with me is that one of Harry T. Burley's biggest regrets was that people would not remember him as an art song composer, but as someone who just arranged spirituals. And he was more than that. And so I was happy to put these songs on here so that people will know that Harry T. Burley was also a wonderful, wonderful, extraordinary art song composer.
Yeah.
And so once again, when they type his name in, they won't only see Deep River that pops up, which is what he's most known for, but maybe they will find some of his art songs and these songs will pop up, and then that'll lead whomever to other things that Harry Burley has written, you know?
Right.
And so it was also just time for me to do a recording.
Well, we're glad you did.
Yeah, it was time. I absolutely had no time to do a recording. I absolutely had no time to put in to what you and I and everyone else did between teaching and juggling, performing. I had no time, but I made it happen. Yes. And you make things happen that are important to you. And so the time was now, so I did it.
That's amazing. And like you said, I think what really excites me about being able to, you know, kind of peripherally be a part of this incredible album and this being one of the first things that we've put out as a record label, as a classical record label, is it really, this album says so much on so many different levels. Not only is it showcasing music that is really powerful and doesn't get recorded very often. And in a recital, obviously making incredible music and very well put together and sounds really lovely, amazing. But like I said, able to actually record in perpetuity and then have on things like Spotify and iTunes or whatever, people's music and this poetry is so powerful.
Absolutely.
It's really amazing.
And also the stars kind of aligned. I mean, Warren has been playing with me. We've been collaborative partners for a long time. But this recital, going back and listening to this recital live, I said, damn, I was on it that night. Yeah, you know, and I've gotten a few comments. Was this a studio recording or was this live? And I'm like, no, this was live. You just caught me on a good night.
Yeah, seriously. That actually was going to lead me to my next question. So having done an album live, recording, you know, your next one, would you want to do it in the studio, or do you think the live performance really gave it something super special? Or is it like a lot of, like, you didn't know when you were giving that this was going to be on an album?
Exactly. Exactly. Well, here's the kicker. I always talk to my students about this as well.
Yeah.
I perform like it's going to be.
That is great.
Because you never know. And
That's
so
true.
In the back of my mind, I had it in the back of my mind. I don't know if my mama is recording this. I don't know if Brevard Music Center is recording this.
Right.
So I'm going to try to make it that if somebody is recording it, they will feel like they were there. You know, and so also I just prepared it. Like, you have to, one of the things that I struggle with is making sure that my cup stays full so that, one, that I could lead in school, but two, so that I have that time for myself to continue to be creative and to be in a creative state of mind.
Yes.
Without all of the internet. And I love Instagram. Y'all know I love Instagram more than I love Facebook. But, you know, if Facebook want to pay me some money or something, then I'd be okay, cool. You know, fine. No shade. But I'm definitely, like my friend said earlier, I'm definitely a Virgo in the sense that I need that time. I need that time to be an artist. I need that time to really do the work so that my art, I don't want to call it a product, but my art and my craft matches my reputation.
Absolutely.
So that it's not just like, oh, it's all talk and then the performance was just kind of mediocre. I want those two things to match. And that comes to me from being able to sit down with it and live with the piece and do the work and study the text and to play trial and error with my coaches and my teacher and to do that. And I feel like sometimes post-quarantine, I won't say post-pandemic because we still in the pandemic, okay? But post-quarantine, it can be very tricky to do that. And a lot of times I have to demand my space in order to be an artist, instead of always being, and no shade to anyone who likes being a social butterfly in that capacity. But for me personally, I really had that time this summer and to really sit down and look at these pieces and study them and really try to do something that not only I would be proud of, but that my students would be proud of because they're watching.
Yeah, and they actually had a lot of, at least I remember when we were talking about the album design and the artwork and stuff and the title for the album. They had a lot of influence. They helped you a little bit with making some of it.
Yeah, they actually, my students at Ithaca College, woohoo, they actually chose the album cover and the back cover.
It's like that?
Yep. That's what they chose. And the title comes from Lament for the Dark Peoples.
Right.
It's a poem by Langston Hughes. And that was what I was originally thinking about calling it, but that's where the title comes from, and so everything was well thought out and
absolutely, clearly, yeah.
I'm just excited.
We should mention the photography also was done by a really amazing Black photographer that you have been friends with for a while, David.
Yes, I met him in Baltimore.
Yes.
David Wavy Anderson. He's
David Wavy Anderson.
Yep. I don't even know if he's on here. Maybe we'll send this to him, but he's a wonderful photographer and he's got an IG page. I hope people can go to his IG page and check him out and hire him. I know Jasmine Habisham, my sister Jazz, she did a photo shoot with him. He did some great work on her headshots as well. And I really like working with him. And I'm glad that we were able to feature his work on this.
Absolutely. Well, so with the last few minutes that we have, I would love, anybody in the Instagram world or anybody who's watching on Facebook or YouTube, if anybody wants to throw in a question that they want to ask Sidney, we're happy to do that for the last couple of minutes. But for those of you who want to buy,
please.
For those of you who want to buy Lament or stream it, it's on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, all of the places. And you can also physical copies. If you don't know, you can always hit them up for one. You can go to our website, www.classics.com, which is our record label, and you can buy there. We need to print some more copies because
maybe
they are selling.
Listen, I ain't mad. I'm not mad at it.
I mean, it's a great.
I didn't know all of those stats that you told me before. I mean, I was just.
Really?
I didn't know. I just. Hey, this is on Spotify. Title, go listen. I gotta go teach.
It's really amazing. No, and that's so great. And Absolutely. And it's really amazing. I remember when I was a student getting a degree in opera. And I, every time my teacher would go perform, I'd be like, oh my gosh, my teacher's like actually doing the thing. And, if being a student, my teacher had put out an album, I would have been like, oh my gosh, my teacher's favorite. Yeah. This is so cool.
Just absolutely nuts. Like,
yeah.
And when do teachers find time to do those types of things?
I know, because you're doing such the good work of like molding the young voices and minds of the future, and then you're also being a performer and doing all the things. So that's really amazing.
Yes.
Awesome. So, all right. Well, I don't think some people are proud to call you their teacher, but I think.
Who is that? That's Eric. Yes, Eric is a wonderful tenor that people should be really looking out for, because he is singing extremely well.
Amazing. Well, he's got a great teacher, I hear. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much, Sidney, for joining us tonight. We're so happy to have had you be our first debut from our record label. This is just
absolutely. And listen, we're going to be popping out albums, lots of them.
I am on board. It was so nice to just be able to sit down and talk to you a little about this. I feel like every time we spoke, we were like, I have 5 minutes. I need to ask you something about your album or your link or photography. So this has been really cool.
This is very lovely.
Came off a performance. What do you have coming up next? You're teaching for a while.
So a week ago today, we did Porgy and Bess with Greensboro Opera, and Rhiannon Giddens sang Bess. Next week, I will be in North Carolina again, working with the Western Piedmont Symphony, doing Lieder eines fahrenden Gesellen, a piece that is very dear to me. So I'm happy to do that. And I got a Marcello this semester, and I got a Barbara Seville this semester. So I am staying busy. The key is to stay organized, to make sure that everything is in its place with performance-wise and what's happening at school as well. So I'm excited, but I am hyper-focused these days, trying to make sure that all the puzzle pieces stay on the table and don't get mixed up.
Absolutely. I completely relate to that.
Absolutely.
Well,
absolutely.
You so much. I
hope everybody goes out and gets the CD.
Yes, everybody go buy stuff that we have
to the CD. Yep. Or go stream it. It's on all the platforms. Write a review. I don't know. Write something. I don't know. Do they do that? Do people still do that? Yeah, run up the streams. Right? Absolutely.
Yeah, the streams, share it with your friends, share it with your family. It's really monumental. We're so excited on like 1,000 different things to have been able to do this. So, Sidney, as always, it's a pleasure. Go get some rest.
Absolutely.
It's the week. You have a nice week, relaxing week.
Nope. Tomorrow we have auditions at Ithaca College. So I'm going to go do that, and I'm excited to hear some young singers and doing a lot of recruiting. So
that's so great.
Wow. Onward and upward.
Wow. Onward and upward. Well, thank you so much to everybody who joined us tonight. We are going to be doing these episodes regularly with artists that we have been working with throughout the year. The next episode will be very exciting. So we hope next time, go buy some CD. Follow us on www.emitha.com, Lexicon Classics.com, and
YouTube, and all the things that everybody does. So.
Have a wonderful evening, everybody. Thank you so much, Sidney.
Thank you for having me, and thank you all for helping me put this together. Bye everyone.
Everybody.